So I put out a tweet very recently asking for hot takes, as I do for these hot takes videos. And one thing that I noticed, I specifically asked for playoff hot takes. And damn it if the Sacramento Kings were not half of the like 300 replies that I got. So many takes to so many extreme degrees about the Sacramento Kings, because I think as the year has gone along, a lot of people haven't paid attention to the Kings, just given that they're the Kings and they're a team that you don't typically pay attention to. Meanwhile, the Sacramento Kings are maybe my second most watched team in the league, of course, behind, unfortunately, the Chicago Bulls, although more fortunate lately because they've been pretty good. Anyways, the Sacramento Kings are a team that I have watched extensively this year because I find them to be so unbelievably fun offensively. Of course, they've had the best offense in the NBA, and the relationship that De'Aaron Fox and Domantas Sabonis have in the pick and roll and the handoff action, whatever it is that they may do, that relationship combined with having the shooting of Kevin Huerter, Malik Monk, Keegan Murray, Harrison Barnes, the shooting out there with those two, it's really just a perfect recipe, and I'm really quite high on this Sacramento Kings team. But if you take a look at what all these takes were, it was like they're making the conference finals, maybe even the finals, or they are a first-round exit, and in fact, a lot of people said they will lose in embarrassing fashion. So I kind of want to make my take for both sides here, because while I definitely am leaning more towards the sides of them going pretty far, even with my love of them, I understand the flaws that exist that would make someone say that they're probably not going to go that far. So let's start on the negative end of the spectrum. There's two strong things that would suggest that the Sacramento Kings are not going to do particularly great in the playoffs, and that is defense and experience. Let's first talk about experience. If you take a look down this roster, De'Aaron Fox has never been to the playoffs. Domantas Sabonis has been to the first round like twice, and they lost really fast. Malik Monk, I don't think, has ever been to the playoffs. Kevin Huerter obviously was a part of that conference finals run, but that's it. I think they lost in round one to somebody, again, when they made the play-in or whatever it was. I don't remember exactly. Harrison Barnes has not been to the playoffs since 2016. And the last time he was in the playoffs, he was absolutely terrible in the NBA Finals, so that doesn't exactly bode well. Keegan Murray is a rookie, obviously. If you're just looking to really a lot of their key contributors, it is guys who do not have playoff experience, and playoff experience definitely matters. Then, of course, there's defense. I believe they're ranked 22nd in defense last I checked in the entire league, which, if you want to go far in the playoffs, typically speaking, historically, being really bad at defense, or at least pretty bad, they're kind of teetering on the line between those two. Not ideal to go very far, because while offense is something that can be fickle and you can have an on or off night, you don't really have on or off nights defensively. Every once in a while you do, but typically speaking, it's something that you can rely upon night in, night out. And it's better to just, from that point of view, have a strong defense. And if offense is going to be a little bit of an issue every once in a while, that's fine. Now, if you take a look at how teams have performed in the playoffs historically, offense and defense do matter just as much. But I'm just simply saying I feel more comfortable banking on a defense-first team than an offense-first team, just simply given that offense can be fickle. And you'll often see the teams that make it to the finals and make it far in the playoffs are teams that are really strong defensively. Of course, the Golden State Warriors and the Boston Celtics made it last year, and I think the Warriors were not jump off the charts defensively good last year, but still good, and definitely turned it up even more so in the playoffs. And of course, I think last year's Celtics roster, and by extension this year's Celtics roster, is perhaps the best core six defenders that I've ever seen on a basketball team. So defense is an issue, experience is an issue, but offensively, this team is ludicrous. And I do think it is something that will translate very well to the playoffs. And I think they're so ludicrous that, like, literally number two is, I don't remember who's number two offensively, but the number two team offensively is like 2 points behind them in offensive rating. And number 5 is like 5 points lower in offensive rating. So, like, essentially, the Kings are scoring 5 more points a game than 2 spots below them as the best offense in the league. So they're not only the best offense, they're the best offense by a sizable margin. And given all that, that makes the Sacramento Kings offense particularly scary. And what I appreciate about the offense, other than the fact that, they have all the shooting in the world, is that what they have is just so consistent and reliable, something that can be relied upon. Because even if the shooting is not necessarily going their way, they still have Sabonis and De'Aaron Fox, who are really capable of getting a lot of points in the paint. And Sabonis can be a little bit timid with his scoring at times, but if the circumstances come where he needs to be a little bit more aggressive, he has shown that he can be. And if there's a night where the shots aren't dropping, maybe Sabonis gets a couple more post-up possessions, and that can make a little bit of the difference. And I really do think that experience is also something that can be a little bit overblown. It definitely matters, but like the Sacramento Kings, the players on this team know how to win a basketball game. And winning a regular season game consistently, winning a bunch of regular season games, should be a sign that you can win playoff games, right? Like if you are clearly showing an ability to know how to win an NBA game, that doesn't just fall to the wayside as soon as the playoffs come around. Now, of course, there are individual circumstances that are predicated on that will be different, but I think it is often overblown. I feel like sometimes people will look at two teams and like one of them has like 30 more wins, not 30, that's a little, let's say like 15 more wins than the other team, but the other team has experience in the past, and they're like, well, that's obviously going their way. I'm going to chalk that up to experience. Like a great example of that would be like if the Kings played the Warriors. Now, I would understand the point of view of like Steph, Clay, Draymond, what are we doing here? Especially if Andrew Wiggins came back for the postseason. But I would pick the Kings to win that series because they have displayed such a better ability in the regular season that I think they'll have the ability to win those games. Now, when they come to an opponent that is on equal footing to them, I could see it going the other way for sure. I could see experience being the difference maker between two teams that are relatively-ish close. But I feel like if in the regular season one team is notably better than the other, I'm going to bet on that, even if one team has more history than the other team does. But I understand where that point of view comes from. So overall, if I'm taking a look at this Kings team, I would probably predict, it depends on the first round matchup. I would predict they have a valiantly fought second round matchup. And for their future in general, they take this, they improve maybe defensively, add some more defensive personnel in the offseason, internal improvement, maybe Keegan Murray takes a step up defensively, what have you. And maybe they're the best offense in the league next year and the 15th defense. And at that point, we can start talking about the Kings as like serious contenders. I don't know that I'd quite put them in that echelon. I think I have in the past, but experience probably will be their undoing ultimately. But I really love this Kings roster, and I would not be surprised if they win as far as the conference finals. Now, if they made it to the finals, that would mean either the Nuggets or Suns probably lost to the Kings. I think that'd be required for that path unless they both lost in the first round, which I find highly unlikely. So that seems impossible to me, basically, for them to beat one of those teams in the conference finals or the second round. But who knows? Maybe. Sometimes fresh legs and being new to a scene can also just give you perspective that having history there doesn't. So I think the Kings can go pretty far, and I believe in them personally. Maybe you don't, but I do.